as I devour this peach falafel salad while giving you the tea on the chilling and horrific Nanny murder. Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your husband, because they're killing everybody up in here. And on that note, let's eat. Let's get right into it. I absolutely love falafel. It is my favorite thing to eat. I'm just gonna show you. Excited. Break off a bit of falafel. Get a bit of salad. Let's get right into it. September 2017, the charred remains of a woman were discovered in the quiet suburbs of Southfield, London. It soon became clear that the body belonged to Sophie Lionnet, a 21-year-old nanny from France, at the hands of her employer and mother of two, Sabrina Kouider, along with her partner, Sam Medouni. This haunting photo was the last ever photo taken of the starved and tortured nanny just 2 days before she was murdered. Here's what we know. The couple moved to the neighborhood in Southfield in 2013. Sabrina, an up-and-coming fashion designer, and her partner Sam, a financial analyst. Locals described the couple as being very fancy and glamorous, but also very polite and friendly. Now, what they didn't know was that Sabrina had a very dark, delusional, and sadistic side to her. She was not in touch with reality, as she had a volatile obsession with her celebrity ex-boyfriend and Irish boy band member, Mark Watson of Boyzone. Anybody know who that is? I sure as hell do not.
No ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am.
So apparently the two had a passionate yet volatile relationship. The problem is Sabrina went nuts when they ended things in 2013. Forensic psychologists say her relationship with Mark was the catalyst for her breakdown and eventually her demise. She was so fixated on Mark, she decided if she couldn't have him, she was going to end him. She made false allegations about him, saying he was stalking her and that he harmed her family. All untrue allegations. She also made over 200 calls to police and social services regarding Mark, all found to be false. Her dysfunctional relationship transcended onto her new relationship with Sam. Neighbors described them as being distant and quiet, as they mostly keep to themselves. They eventually hire Sophie, a 21-year-old nanny, au pair, to help Sabrina with her two children. Sophie was described as very quiet and shy. She also kept to herself. isolating her. They refused to pay her and were also starving her. A local chip shop owner reports her coming in and ordering a small portion of fries. The way she consumed the food alerted the owner. He also noticed how frail, unkempt, and disheveled she was. She later revealed to the chip shop owner that she was being abused and sometimes even beaten by Sabrina. She mentioned how desperately she wanted to go home and see her family. The shop owner, sensing something was wrong, tried to intervene and help. Here's what happened.
And then I had to ask her, what happened. At that point she said Sabrina beat her. So I asked why, which I didn't want to, but I had to ask her why. And she said, the way she said it, the butter fell off and Sabrina beat me. All this was raising alarms, something is not right. I said, Sophie, if you want, I'll find you a job. So I even spoke to a friend of mine and he said, send her immediately. I can sort something out.
A couple of days after Michael made this offer of help, Kouider stormed into the chip shop, dragging a terrified Sophie with her.
I was just setting my table chairs outside and she started to scream at me very loud, and she didn't let Sophie speak and she went screaming at Sophie in French, which I didn't understand nothing. And then I knew this has got nothing to do with me. So I said, Sabrina, you got to excuse me. I got to go back and open my shop. And I left them there and I walked away.
Michael suspected something was wrong, but he could never in his wildest dreams imagine what Kouider and Medouni were doing to Sophie behind closed doors.
While no one knows the exact cause of Sophie's death, we do know she was the victim of a series of brutal attacks leading up to the day of her murder. Both Sam and Sabrina blaming each other for the events that took place. Now, evidence recorded on Sophie's phone indicate the cruel torture Sophie was subjected to, and all for no reason. Sabrina became obsessed and even fixated on Sophie. It got to the point that she blamed Sophie for things as simple such as the breakup of her and her ex, and even began to accuse Sophie of conspiring with her ex, Mark, from the boy band, against her. She appears to have shifted her frustration and anger from the breakup and projected it all onto Sophie. Here's some of the recording.
Unbelievably, these sessions were recorded by Kouider and Medouni on a mobile phone.
I will not leave you alone until you tell me the truth. Is this clear? Do you understand?
These recorded interrogations were all centered around Kouider's obsession with her ex-boyfriend, Mark Walton.
Kouider obviously couldn't get to Mark Walton because by then he was living in Los Angeles, and she diverted all her anger and anxieties and obsession onto Sophie, and she got it into her head that Sophie Lionnet was working with Mark Walton to spy on her and to wreck her life.
she concocted in her head a bizarre idea that there was a plot against her and Medouni, and so over time she began to question Sophie for many hours on end about what exactly she thought had been going on.
Extracts of these interrogation tapes were played to a shocked court.
You will not go back to France until you've told me the truth. I'm going to spoil your life as you have spoiled mine.
Sophie was subjected to 8 weeks of brutal interrogation at the hands of the couple in the hours before her death. A defeated and battered Sophie was finally recorded confessing to colluding with Mark. The aftermath is the horrific, twisted, and cruel murder of Sophie Lionnet. As mentioned earlier, how she died isn't completely known. But here's what we do know. Forensics can only assume she was waterboarded, which is the torture in which water is poured over the face and breathing passages, causing one to experience the sensation of drowning. Sophie also had several cracked ribs, which appear to be inflicted several days prior to her death. Her jaw was also broken. It is believed she was tortured to death, and to cover up her death, the couple decided to light a bonfire in their small backyard. The smoke and flames got so high, the neighbors nearby called the fire department as a precaution. They feared the fire was growing out of control and that it was too close to the nearby houses. Upon arrival, the fire department witnessed Sam tending to the fire. They immediately began to put out the fire. That's when they stumbled upon limbs, a finger, and even a nose. The couple were immediately arrested and charged with the murder of Sophie Lionnet. Jurors convicted the couple of murder, and they were sentenced to life imprisonment. The reason why they decided to inflict this cruel punishment and torture upon this poor Nanny is unknown to the rest of us. We will never know why.
I think that Kouider was so convinced by her delusions, and Medouni also buying into this, was convinced that these acts had occurred, that there's very little Sophie could have done to appease them. Now, whether she was murdered because the torture got out of hand or whether it was a deliberate, premeditated act is really only something that Kouider and Medouni themselves would know.
Sophie was never kept under lock and key. With the full extent of the torture she'd suffered now revealed, one question remained. Why hadn't she left?
She should have walked out. I don't know why she was stuck there. She can come out to the street and tell help. People would have helped her.
People might often ask the question when they hear of a domestically abusive relationship, why hasn't that person left? I'm sure some people might be asking that question of Sophie. We have to understand she would have felt absolutely trapped, both psychologically and physically. Her emotions would not have allowed her or permitted her to feel that she had the strength of character to leave that household.
The things that Kouider had been threatening her with, Sophie probably thought would happen. She'd been told that she was a thief, that she was a sexual abuser, that she was working in cahoots with somebody else. She might have been terrified that had she even got to the airport, she'd have been arrested.
Despite this, there's a sense of collective guilt in Southfields.
How did we not notice? It's unbelievable. We would never have believed that something like that could have happened. It's so incomprehensible to think that that happens, never mind so close to you. You just don't expect it.
We feel really guilty that, we didn't notice what was going on. She was such a lovely girl, and it's just a horrible, horrible thing to have happened right in front of our eyes.
I feel guilty because we just wish that they could have done something. She wanted to go back to France and she only needed £20 or £25. We would have given that to her.
I feel bad. I should have gone to the next level. Either made a complaint, but that period was too short. When that happened, I think it's a week I saw her. After that, never saw her.
Nobody thinks that this kind of thing is going on their doorstep. And that is one of the things really that helps abusers and controlling people to do what they do, is because we all stand around on the outside thinking, well, it can't be that bad.
It's knocked our community, it really has. We're completely devastated by it, and it won't be forgotten.
Yeah, but when you can help somebody.
And on that note, guys, thank you for joining me. Please take care of yourselves and everyone around you. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Also,